The autumn air hit the streets with a strong breeze. It took leaves and trash along in its arms and swept them up into a frenzy until they were discarded elsewhere. Many of the people walking the streets of Elmwood kept themselves sheltered in thick coats with scarves to their necks. There was a group of young men, college age, pouring out into the streets for their weekend activity of traversing the city on their roller skates and skateboards. The leaders of the pack, a brotherly duo of twins, Fred and Jay, powered through the streets as if they didn't have a mob of other riders trying to keep up behind them. Chilly wind at their backs, pushing them forward like a spirited zephyr. Their style was unique. They wove back and forth between each other and kept low to the ground, almost as if they would fall over during any of the turns they completed. They also found themselves weaving in and out of the paths of the sidewalks and the street, annoying some of the people that felt they were moving too fast through the crowds. They started out in Lower L, each coming from their homes and gathering in the Southern Elm Youth Complex. It held a few small basketball courts with worn-out nets and grass filled with patches of yellowed or missing greenery. They normally trained to perform so well on wheels in the back of the lot, which had the smoother pavement of the two lots that they had at their disposal. Jay, more than Fred by far, was far more happy to be out on the streets and at the neck of a bit of danger. The skaters soon passed the train station, themed with colors of whites and blues and the arrows which served to guide people from certain train platforms. Down into its inner workings they descended. Weaving through people and obstacles, the subway opened itself to the riders and gave them shelter from the city streets and law enforcement that would get in their way. The target was Middle Elm, and they would soon arrive, erupting from the portal of the subway station at Central Avenue. They were now in the belly of the city's midday action, people going all throughout the streets on their way to lunch. The unspoken barrier of the middle-class businesses and homes welcomed the group with closed arms. The twins pushed on through the crowds of people, working their ways into their favorite eateries and back into work offices. Jay separated from the group to find his way inside of a small alleyway behind a restaurant. He crept into the back door and put a small note on a desk where an older woman sat. She looked at him with a face of worry and provided him with a paper that she scribbled on. He nodded at her and he took off again to search for his friends who had also done similar things, collecting pages from people across Middle Elm. Jay pushed through the city again, moving to their rendezvous point. His skates hummed across the concrete and bumped with the interruption of a pebble or two. His eyes got trained on several points in his route, predicting hazards and keeping his body limber to respond in time. He used his senses, hearing the voices and cars around him, giving himself a bigger and more complete picture of what was happening around him. In the distance, he caught sight of one of his friends and made an attempt to catch up. The skater up ahead, on a skateboard, turned right and made an unplanned chase of the event. Jay smiled and sped up before hitting the same turn and keeping a tight curve alongside a city bus. He reached out to touch it and gained a sense of satisfaction from the feat. He fully pressed along the body of that vehicle, sending himself along the correct route. Again, Jay sped up and got within a couple of yards of his friend. Skater gave a thumbs up and pointed at his backpack. They both moved to complete their route, going towards the meeting point they agreed on beforehand. It was the food court called Fountain Garden. The garden was surrounded on two sides by restaurants and food trucks. There were colorful flowers and deep green grass that circled a large fountain with three jets of water shooting up at different heights. The sounds of the jets and something about the steps at the side produced music made by moving water and wind. Fred always loved the sounds of the park, and Jay knew that his brother was swiftly heading here. Fred was coming from Upper Elm and caught a bit of trouble during his route. He had been stricken, lightly, by a vehicle driven by a man who owned a home in Upper Elm. At the time of the collision, Fred fell to the road and grabbed his side, now bruised. He quickly got to his feet as he was battered by an onslaught of insults from the man who acted as if this wasn't his reckless driving's fault. He threatened Fred, who now began to speed away on his skates. The man got back in his car and pursued. Fred worked hard to lose him, cutting harsh angles over the streets, alleyways, and sidewalk. He found himself taken by the pace and process of the chase. He was not his brother, and didn't necessarily enjoy this sort of chance to flex his speed and mobility. He was much more comfortable being in the parks, honing his skills he never wanted to use. He took momentary glances back at the car, which pursued at a hurried pace. Inside the car, the man was calling the police. He lied, saying the kid was intruding on his property and was fleeing on skates. Fred got himself to the border of Middle Elm and took himself down a hill to ditch the car. He took a sharp corner and took another look back. He felt his eyes get heavy and then hot for a second. He heard sirens close by as he snapped his eyes forward to catch quick glimpses of flashing blue lights. His eyes were now full of blue and red, caught hold of the emergency lights of several cars before him. He looked around and saw the man who had chased him, driving off into the city. His eyes burned quickly in a soft amber color before returning to their brown hue. Fred relaxed and accepted that he was about to be arrested. He took one final turn into the alleyway and quickly found a trash can. He opened his bag and stuffed the notes into the trash, scattering them enough as they would look like trash. He zipped the bag up again and lay down on the ground with the bag thrown to his right side and out of reach. He saw the police, the shoes dashing towards him, and received their voices in a sense of dreadful calm. Not so far away, Jay was caught in a bridged vision of the trouble his brother was in. He rallied the group and they got closer to the site of his brother's arrest. They were each careful, prioritizing the retrieval of the papers over anything else. They knew that Fred would be well taken care of later by someone far more capable.